Before we begin, I want you to answer one question. When was the last time someone truly understood you without you saying a single word? Perhaps you can't remember, or perhaps you remember it all too well. Because there are moments when a room can be full of voices, yet somehow one person still feels completely alone. It's a strange contradiction. We've never had more ways to connect. Messages arrive instantly, video calls cross continents, thousands of people can follow our lives with a single tap. And yet, loneliness has become one of the most common human experiences. How is that possible? How can someone feel isolated in a world that's more connected than ever before? Perhaps because loneliness isn't measured by the number of people around us. Maybe it's measured by something far more difficult to see. Maybe the feeling that nobody truly understands us. For decades, loneliness was often mistaken for simply being alone. But psychologists now know that they're not the same thing. Some of the loneliest people, for example, are surrounded by family, work with dozens of colleagues every day, or spend hours talking to friends, because being surrounded by people isn't the same as feeling connected to them. And once that connection begins to disappear, the mind starts changing in ways most of us never notice. For years, scientists believed loneliness was simply a consequence of isolation. But one psychologist spent decades revealing a very different picture. Dr. John Cacioppo, one of the world's leading researchers on loneliness, discovered that loneliness isn't just an emotion. It's a biological signal, much like hunger tells us we need food, or thirst reminds us to drink. Loneliness tells us we need meaningful human connection. Seen this way, loneliness isn't a weakness. It's a message that something essential is missing. And this also explains why loneliness can feel surprisingly physical. Have you ever noticed how rejection can feel like a real ache, or how losing someone can leave a heaviness that seems impossible to describe? That's because the brain doesn't treat social pain as something completely separate from physical pain. Brain imaging studies have shown that some of the same regions activated when we experience physical pain also become active during social rejection or exclusion. To the brain, being disconnected from others has always mattered. From an evolutionary perspective, our ancestors depended on their group to survive. Being left behind didn't simply mean feeling lonely, it could mean not surviving at all. Although the world has changed, our brains still carry those ancient survival systems, which means loneliness isn't simply about being alone. It's the mind's way of saying, you were never meant to face life entirely on your own. But here's something even more surprising. Some of the loneliest people rarely spend their days alone. Take Sarah, for example, a 34-year-old marketing executive living in a busy city. From the outside, she had what many would describe as a successful life. She worked in a modern workplace where conversations never seemed to stop, and she spoke with colleagues throughout the day. Her evenings were filled with messages, social media, and video calls with family. From the outside, nothing seemed to be missing. Yet every night, when the conversations ended, the same feeling quietly returned. She couldn't explain it. How could someone surrounded by people still feel so alone? The answer lies in something psychologists have understood for years. The number of social interactions we have isn't what protects us from loneliness. It's the quality of those interactions. 100 brief conversations can never replace one person who truly listens, one genuine connection, one moment of feeling understood. Researchers have repeatedly found that loneliness isn't determined by how many people we know. but by whether we feel emotionally connected to them. Perhaps that's why someone can walk through a crowded city, attend meetings all day, or share dinner with others, and still return home carrying a quiet sense of emptiness. Because the mind isn't counting people, it's searching for belonging. But loneliness has another side, one that's far less visible. It doesn't only change our emotions, it quietly changes the way we think. Over time, a lonely mind becomes more alert to signs of rejection. A delayed reply suddenly feels personal. A canceled plan feels like proof that nobody really cares. Even silence can begin to feel like judgment. Not because those things are always true, but because the brain has entered a state of self-protection. Dr. John Cacioppo's research found that prolonged loneliness can make people become increasingly sensitive to social threats. It's as if the mind is constantly asking one question: do I belong here? And once that question takes hold, neutral situations are often interpreted in the most painful way possible. Ironically, the more lonely we become, the more cautious we become around other people. We speak a little less, we trust a little less, we withdraw a little more. Not because we want to be alone, but because the brain is trying to protect us from being hurt again. And that's where loneliness becomes a trap. The very feeling that makes us long for connection can quietly push us further away from it. Without realizing it, we begin building walls around the very thing we're searching for. Perhaps that's why loneliness is so difficult to escape, not because nobody is there, but because loneliness slowly convinces us that nobody will understand. So, can loneliness ever truly disappear? The answer is yes, but not because we suddenly meet hundreds of new people or because our phones become busier. One of the longest-running studies ever conducted on human life, the Harvard study of adult development, has followed people for more than 80 years. Its conclusion is surprisingly simple. The quality of our relationships matters far more than the quantity. One genuine friendship, one person who listens without judgment, one conversation where we feel truly understood. Those moments do more than comfort us. They remind the brain that we belong. Maybe that's what loneliness has been trying to tell us all along. Not that we need more people, but that we need more meaningful connection. Think back to the question we began with. When was the last time someone truly understood you, without you saying a single word? If someone came to mind, hold on to that connection. Because in the end, we don't remember the people who spoke the most. We remember the people who made us feel understood. If today's documentary gave you a new perspective on loneliness, you'll find the research and references in the description below. Until our next documentary, stay curious and keep exploring the human mind with us. The Science of Human Behavior.